Welcome back. Well, we've retrieved a little bit in terms of the equity markets, but for the currency market, we did test an important level as per traders and experts, which was 65.8, and we're still hovering around those levels. Manoj, Rane, the Managing Director, Global Markets and Treasury, BNP Paribas, as well as Irene, Cheung, the Forex strategist at ANZ Research, join in to talk about the currency space. Irene, just coming to you first, what is your sense in terms of the rupee? What are the levels that you expect maybe by year end?
Well, yeah, we actually are sort of downgrading all the Asian forecasts, so I think there's more upside for dollar rupee going forward, given the move that we have seen. Basically, I think there is a pullout of funds, from Asia as a whole, as well as from other emerging markets, back to the developed markets, and I think that probably will continue in the near term.
Okay, Manoj, good morning. Your call, we have seen fast decline, towards 66. 66 is almost here, and just two, three days back, we were talking about 65. Do you think it's a real possibility now to go back to the previous lows?
See, I have a slightly different view. I do think the currency versus the USD is now in a bit of an overshoot territory. It is reacting, of course, to regional and global currency movements. But I think sometimes we tend to forget that the fundamentals are considerably different from the rest of the region. We are not so much an exporting economy. We are not going to be that hurt by Chinese devaluation. And of course, domestic fundamentals are considerably strong. We are in a current account surplus situation. We've had fairly strong inflows. In fact, in the last 3-4 days, when you've seen outflows from emerging market funds, particularly offshore ones, on the FII side, we've had very little outward movement, despite the fact that markets have got sold off. So, I do think it is in an overshoot territory. I do not really think, it obtains that we should revise our forecast substantially upwards. I am still inclined to feel 65 might be a, point around which it might hover, of course, when geopolitical factors as well as, currency markets are volatile. It is going to go a bit more than the rest. But otherwise, I do think that the currency might not react too much from here on, though we would like to see it, right? Because, the press is full of exports being uncompetitive. You had yesterday RBI Governor Rajan also mentioning the fact that, the currency holding its own and remaining fairly strong in RER terms is not that good from an export perspective. So one is what we would like to happen. But my personal take is, unfortunately, you might not see too much of depreciation from here on.
Okay. Manoj, what's happening in terms of flows with regards to the debt market right now from an FII perspective?
So, we still are positive for August. We've seen some minor negatives over the last 2 or 3 days, not even worth mentioning,
Okay.
in terms of maybe 10 million, 20 million or so. And on the equity side, of course, you didn't ask, so obviously your opinion is like mine, which is, equity flows typically in negative currency times are not that negative.
Okay. So, Manoj, I didn't quite get your forecast. You said that the rupee would hover around 65, but do you think that it would test 68 in terms of the previous low? Could it break 68.8 decisively and then maybe average at 65?
So decisively break 68.8, certainly not, because that's not my view at all. Whether it goes to previously tested levels, possibly, but unlikely is my opinion. So you might see till such time as you continue to see regional and global markets sell off. Markets get exacerbated by all kinds of, market movements get exacerbated by all kinds of things, right? Firing on the Korea front, Uzbekistan devaluation, etc., which normally you wouldn't even consider in your list of items. So I would think maybe 65 and around, not too far away from 65, honestly.
Okay. Irene, a word on the dollar index, and do you think the kind of slide that we have seen in emerging market currencies, is that going to continue?
Well, in the near term, I think the sentiment is pretty poor. As you can see that although the dollar has softened vis-a-vis other G10 currencies on the back of the release of the FOMC minutes, but sell-off in in the emerging markets continues, and one of the reasons is because of weak fundamentals in the region, including most of the countries in Asia. So I think we don't have the kind of positive sentiments that we previously had to support our currencies.
Okay. All right, Irene as well as Manoj, thank you very much for joining in and talking to us and giving all of that perspective on the rupee. So